to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
We're joined here in studio by Tony Gilbertson, lives in Vernonia, Oregon, and is also the world champion elk caller. Man, it is really cool to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
I was lucky enough to meet you once already this past year at the Phelps booth at the Sportsman Show. Had no idea that you were a competitive caller, and now you're the world champion, man. You've been all over the place too. Once we just figured out that we were going to have you on this weekend, I of course do some research. I started doing this and that. You're everywhere. Instagram, all the Phelps stuff, doing interviews here, even on our network, which I thought was cool that they were bringing in some of the outdoor stuff. But how's it feel, man? What was that like, actually winning the world championship?
You know, and it was, I was a bit in disbelief. Considering the competition I had to go up against to win in the pro division,
sure,
it was insane. I won the men's division in 2021, and yeah, that was pretty intense too. But the caliber of callers in the pro division, any one of us could win that contest. So it's pretty close, and it felt amazing once I figured out that I won. Yeah, I'm still on cloud 9.
And it's only been a week or so now, is it?
Yeah, it was last Saturday. It'll be a week ago tomorrow.
A week ago? Okay. So, I mean, this is something that you've been working at for a long time. I mean, this isn't like you just decided to start calling elk 4 or 5 years ago. How long have you been, you know, becoming a master of your trade?
Yeah, so I started competing in 2005. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation had a contest down here at this convention center in Portland. Then I went to Reno a few years. The best I could do was 4th place in the men's division, but I started calling even before then. And it takes a lot of practice, just like anything else.
I could only imagine.
I drive my wife nuts, my neighbors, the dog, everybody.
Well, for 100 years, I did the same thing with a duck call. I mean, it takes more practice than you could ever imagine to get proficient with one. These are just a little bit louder in most cases. Now, I know that you've been involved with the hunting industry, calling industry for quite a while, but you settled on Phelps easily. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I am nowhere near a caller at all, but Phelps has always been in somebody's hand that I'm around, or the majority of people that you ever see. Is there a difference between these sorts of calls bugles that you're using? Is there a reason why you settled on this one?
You know, I started out using Larry Jones, Wayne Carlton, Rocky Mountain hunting calls, Primos. And for me, I got to the point where, you know, the consistency, the customer service that I experienced with Phelps was second to none. And so I found calls that just worked for me, and they're all a little bit different. You've got to find the right call for your style of calling. And Phelps, once I started using their calls, it was, I mean, I fell in love with them. They're great call.
I'm assuming here that you were using Phelps before you became one of their pro staffers.
I was, yeah. I've used Phelps calls for, I don't know, 10 years probably.
So you use Phelps calls. You have your own, by the way.
I do.
Pro or Signature Series mouth read. And there's a couple others here that you have on here as well, but we're here talking to Mr. Gilbertson. Is yours quite a bit different than, say, what the other guys are here that you have in these packs that folks can buy? Is yours different from theirs?
Mine's quite a bit different. I'm a guy that puts a lot of air pressure and volume behind it, so I need a reed that's going to stand up to my style of calling. And, you know, I'd go through half a dozen reeds in a season. I don't think I'm going to have this problem with this one.
Nice.
Yeah, Eric Berglund's is different than Jermaine Hodges, and mine, of course, has got a little bit thicker latex, stretched tighter. You can really lean into that call, and it's not going to break over on you.
And you won the World Championship with that call.
I did.
That's even cooler.
Yeah, I was so excited. This is the first year. So when I was asked to be on their pro team, I think a year later, Jason Phelps asked if we'd be interested in Dirk Durham. They asked if we'd be interested in having our own signature elk call, and of course, I wasn't going to say no to that. Sure.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It was a process that we went through for sure. It took a lot of different latex thicknesses and stretches to get to where I really found a call that fit my style of calling. And everybody's got to find that for themselves. And Phelps makes a whole range of different calls for different people.
True. One of the reasons why I'm terrible at it. That's why I love my good friend Kenny. Kenny, love you, bud. I love you. I'll go out there. You stay back there and just get them to do things they don't want to do. Okay, so you hit the peak, man. I mean, you can't get any higher. It doesn't matter what part of the planet you live on. It's the world champion. What's next?
I'm going back next year.
You can do it again.
Yeah, I've got a target on my back now.
Yeah.
You know, there's such a camaraderie with that group of guys. That we've become friends. I mean, I've got such a passion for it, and I've got such respect for the other callers that, you know, it's an experience like no other for me. I've just got a passion about it.
Very cool. And now that you have one, I bet your drive's going to be even more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure.
How many days a week do you practice year-round?
You know, I've got a diaphragm in my mouth 8-10 months out of the year, you know, off and on. But when I'm leading up to the contest, it's every day. You know, I come home from work, I've got it in my mouth. I've got a 45-minute commute. I've got the diaphragm in my mouth. I'm going through my routine. I'm practicing in my head. Because when you get on stage, you've got 7 judges back there. You've got 100 people out in the audience.
Right.
And they're all watching you.
Yeah.
It's a bit nerve-wracking.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm competitive. I want to do well.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I went into this thinking, as long as I can compete against guys like Corey Jacobson and Bo Brooks,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing okay.
Right.
But to come out on top against those guys, I didn't have any expectations of that. It was pretty cool.
I love the story, man. Honestly, I mean, I get a chance to, I've been doing this a long time, I had a chance to follow along with a lot of different things when you're talking the whole outdoor world. Bo Brooks, of course, local guy. I know him from the duck hunting kind of thing that they do with the decoy company that he's associated with. But yeah, man, to see you come out on top. And when we first got that, I started researching. I'm like, Vernonia, shit, there's elk everywhere. There is. I mean, so do you do you go out and practice with real elk? Do you go out and kind of listen to them, or do you?
That's how I learned. I mean, you know, nowadays you've got YouTube. There's all kinds of guys like myself on YouTube that'll go through the basics with you. But when it comes to really learning that language, there's no other better teacher than elk.
Yeah.
And that's really what I focused on. So learn the basics from guys in the industry, go out in the woods, listen to the elk, try to emulate and mimic the sounds they're making. That'll make you a better caller.
That's just, it's super impressive. I love the fact, again, that you're a local guy. I got to go back to that a little bit, though. If you weren't living in that proximity for as long as you have been, do you think you would be calling as such a level as you are now?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. You'd still be putting in the time.
Absolutely. I mean, I hunted over in Eastern Oregon for a lot of years with some good buddies, and that's when I really started getting serious about calling, and that's where they hunted. And for 15 years we hunted over there. I also hunted on the Coast Range too, but yeah, when you got an 800-pound bull elk coming into you, panting and drooling and glunking and screaming his head off, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and the first time I heard that and I experienced that, I was hooked, man.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Just kind of mentally picturing that gives you goosebumps. Just not let alone it'll scare the heck out of you. I'm telling you, it'll scare the heck out of you. It doesn't matter if it's a 4.5 point raghorn or a 350 bull coming in. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that.
No, you shouldn't say that.
No, you shouldn't say that. It's very impressive either way when that actually happens. Well, I got to tell you, man, super proud of you, man. Being a local guy, that's awesome to hear that. And I would expect that you're going to have a good opportunity to do it again.
Yes.
Any changes that you'll make between now and next year? Do you, as a professional and as well as the world champion, does it make sense to change anything, or do you just work on your basics?
You know, for me, if I know the judges are going to be the same, they liked what I had to say this year, right? So maybe some minor variations. I mean, I put together a routine. I know what I'm going to do on stage, but when you get on stage, you know, you kind of blank out and maybe miss some of the nuances that you wanted to throw in your calling. So I'll go back and watch the video, and I'll watch it over and over and over again, and then I'll practice. And once you get a routine down, it becomes kind of second nature when you're up on stage. So
practice.
Absolutely.
Perfect practice makes perfect, and doesn't matter really what it is. Super cool to meet you. Thanks for coming in my studio.
I appreciate that.
I certainly hope that I can get you back in again. We got elk season that's coming up around the corner. I'd love to get in here, do some calling. But as we go out of this segment, can I talk you into giving us a quick bugle, a quick rip before we go out of this segment?
I'm happy to do that.
I'm sure he is, and I want to hear it too. So everybody, this is the world champion, Tony Gilbertson from Vernonia. We're going to close out our segment with a quick rip from his Phelps bugle. It's not that far away. It's not that far away. Get out and practice, everyone. Doesn't matter if you're practicing, you're shooting or calling. Season is not that far away. July gets us August, and that gets us elk season. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Absolutely.
Everybody, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with TJ Hester from Hester Sports Fishing.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive new Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.